right, Chrissy, thank you. Who doesn't enjoy a good scare, especially around Halloween time? Me. I'm one of those people. But this morning, our horror stories come with a cost. Joining us now is our friend Chase Wilsey, of the VP of Wilsey Asset Management. Chase, good morning.
Good morning.
I don't like the Halloween scare. I don't like the financial scares. I don't like any of them.
I'm with you. I was never a big Halloween guy. I never liked the horror films. I don't like the financial horror stories, so I'm with you there.
Look, the horror films, at least you know it's a movie and it's over.
Yep.
But when you have scares, when it comes to money and scam, that's not funny.
No.
Nobody's laughing at that.
Oh, no, you're not laughing at it. And it is real. As you said, it's just a movie. When you get scared, now this has real consequences. Number one, you're scared. And number two, you might be out of money. That's a problem.
What are some of the scariest scams that you have come across in your time doing what you do?
Well, I mean, you know, these are always scary as well, because we sit here and we talk about these romance scams. And you're like, well, that'll never happen to me. Well, recently we actually had a client, and unfortunately she lost about $1 million to a romance scam.
$1 million?
$1 million.
What happened?
Well, what happened was, you know, unfortunately she lost her husband several years ago, and she was kind of looking for a partner, and they kind of take advantage of your emotions and they prey on that. And as the advisor, there's not much we can do, because initially she talked to us and said it's for a different real estate investment, and we said, we can't block that. You know, that's your money. You want to do a different investment, that's fine. We'll talk about maybe the pros and cons of it, but we can't block that transaction. Well, later we found out one of her family members called and said she's being scammed by a gentleman in Nova Scotia. And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. So fortunately, we were able to block any future transactions going out, but unfortunately, there's nothing we can do to stop her from going to a different financial institution. So unfortunately, the story may not be over with that. And again, I point this out because, again, you think this won't happen to you, but emotions are so powerful, and they can really have a big impact on you or your loved ones down the road when you might not expect it.
Does she know she was scammed?
Not yet.
Oh, so she's still in it?
She's still in it, unfortunately, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, horror can also come with buying a home too?
Yeah, horror can come with buying a home. I mean, horror can come with anything. If you overpay for any asset, if you buy at the height of the market, you know, you're going to have problems. We've seen people lose money on real estate. Don't think it's a pipe dream that always makes money. But more kind of commonly what we see is private real estate deals. And this is what really scares me. And I'll tell you, some of them work out, but I've seen a lot more not work out than I've seen work out. And what happened here in this case was actually earlier this year, we had a client that their accountant, their CPA, recommended 2 real estate deals over 10 years ago. Well, now it's 10 years later and they've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. They just found out that both of those real estate deals went belly up and they lost all of their money. And it's supposed to be, again, in real estate, which people think is safe, but in reality, you can lose money in anything. You have to be very careful.
I think most people will agree, speaking of that money, that the scariest thing for most people, especially when you have a family, is running out of money.
Yeah.
You know, that security and everything, if it poof goes away, like what are you supposed to do? So how do you prevent yourself from being in the romance situation, the house situation, whatever situation?
Yeah, you know, it really comes down to, I think, having a good plan in place. And unfortunately, we've seen this not even with people losing money, but just not saving enough money, and they get to retirement age and they just don't have enough to live off. We had a client several years ago, unfortunately, she was in her 80s, and she was taking probably about 15% from her portfolio every single year, and we're like, that's not sustainable. Our recommended withdrawal rate is 6%. Now, we can't prevent, again, people from taking out too much money. We can say, no, you can't take your money, you know, but we can say 6% is what we recommend. Well, unfortunately, in her 80s, she ran out of money. She had to sell her house, move into an apartment. So the big thing I tell people is just make sure you have a good plan, because it's devastating. And we tell people, well, what am I supposed to do? And unfortunately, our answer is we don't know. I mean, if you don't have the assets, you don't have the capital, it's a big problem. So the big thing I tell people, have a plan. I say too, have a good network, because, you know, with the situation with the romance scams, you got to have family that you trust, and you know, that'll protect you if that does come about.
All good advice. Chase, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that's so sad.